I'm George McCraney, DUI and criminal defense attorney with offices in Valdosta and Douglas, Georgia. Today I wanted to talk about a question that we get a lot of times, and we hear a lot of people ask this question. We see it online and we get it here at the office. And that question is what happens if I refuse to blow in a DUI case here in Georgia? Okay. Now, this is what we hear a lot of times. I know there's nothing you can do for me because I have a DUI refusal. I mean, we hear that here at the office all the time. And our question is why do you think that's true? And they'll respond, and the person will say, because a friend of mine told me that he had one years ago, and that's the way it was. Or we've even heard because the arresting officer told me it was a refusal and I was wasting my time and money to fight it. Okay. Now, when it comes to a DUI or criminal charge in Georgia, the last thing you need to do is take legal advice from the arresting officer. Think about it. If you listen to him and you go in and just plead guilty, then he can do a sloppy job of investigating the DUI or criminal charge. He could have bad standardized field sobriety test, administration or instructions. He can have a bad implied consent notice that he reads. He could have a bad test on the Intox 9000. He could have a sloppy report, and he can get away with it. All right? Now, the driver, anytime you're dealing with this thing, the driver has no experienced DUI attorney to represent him, and they can get away with all kinds of shenanigans. All right. So what we're looking at in this is don't take legal advice about your DUI or criminal charge from the arresting officer or your brother-in-law or a friend of yours that had one years ago. Just don't take that legal advice. That's not a good idea. Go consult and talk with an experienced criminal or DUI defense attorney and get their opinion about your case. It'll be the best investment that you ever make. All right. Now let's get back to DUI refusal. Now, you need to know that a DUI refusal case is basically what's called a DUI less safe driver. All right. Now, there's a new Elliott case here in Georgia, and that means that the state cannot introduce evidence at trial that you refused the state's breath test. All right. Now, if you plead guilty or are convicted of a DUI in Georgia, a DUI refusal, okay, if you plead guilty or you're convicted of it, there is a 12-month hard suspension of your driver's license. And I say hard suspension, and by that what I mean is that you have no way to drive for 12 months. There is no hardship permit. There is no work permit. There is no I've got to go to the doctor permit. They don't care. Okay? The state doesn't care. There's no way for you to drive if you're convicted of DUI refusal in Georgia. Okay? Or if you plead guilty. Now, the DUI defense of a refusal is basically the same as a DUI. The defense would be for a DUI less safe driver. Okay, so if you refuse the state's official test, now that's the Intox 9000. All right, it makes it harder for the state to prove their case against you. All right, they don't have as much evidence. All right, so they don't have the machine test results that they can wave around in court to use to prove that you're over the legal limit. And let's say you're over 21, the legal limit is 0.08. All right, so they don't have a piece of paper to wave around and say, see, this person was over that limit if you refuse to take the test. All right, now the government evidence in that case is going to be their video and audio tapes that they have. It's going to be the officer testimony. All right. Now remember, anything you say, all right, during this DUI investigation can be used against you at trial. So my advice is, don't say anything that can be used against you at trial. Sounds bad at trial. So don't admit that you've been drinking. Don't admit you smoked anything. Don't admit you've taken any prescription medications. You don't have to. You don't have to answer those questions. Don't tell them where you're coming from or going to. They don't have any right to that information. You don't have to say I'm coming from the bar and grill. You don't have to say I'm going to my buddies for a football game. You don't have to say any of that. Okay? Now, if you decide to, you're just giving them evidence to use against you at trial. All right. Now, a final note about DUI refusal here is with a DUI refusal, if you refuse to take their state's test, the official state's test, and normally that's down at the station, okay? If you refuse to take the test of your blood, breath, or your urine, all right, you're already under arrest at that time. When they ask you to take that test, you're under arrest. So if you refuse, you're not being arrested because you refuse to take their test, okay? So it's not if I refuse to take their test, I'm going to have an automatic arrest. You're already under arrest when they should have asked you to take that test, okay, of your breath, blood, or urine. All right, if you refuse to take it, it's not going to affect whether you go to jail or not. You're already under arrest, all right? So anytime that you deal with this, the less evidence, anytime you deal with a criminal case, the less evidence that you can give the state to use against you, the better. So if you refuse to answer questions about whether you've had anything to drink or anything to smoke or any pills that you've taken, prescription or otherwise, if you refuse those questions, if you refuse to take the standardized field sobriety test that they want you to take, we call those the human Olympics, right? If you refuse to blow in the handheld test that they have on the side of the road, all right? Not the official test, but the preliminary test, the little one they say blow into this. All right. If you refuse to take all that, you've taken all their evidence away from them. You're taking more and more evidence away. Okay, you're going to take more and more evidence away so they don't have that to use against you at court. All right. So that's what you need to know about this. So if you refuse to blow in the official state's test, it doesn't cause you to be arrested because you're already under arrest. Okay. That's what you need to know about it. Thank y'all. I'm George McCraney, DUI and criminal defense attorney. I appreciate you watching the video. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call at 833-927-6227 or at themccraneyLawFirm.com. We'll be glad to help you get the answers to your questions.